for instance, the clear cell ovarian cancer and the endometrioid type.
Mm.
Well, aside from these two, which again is very rare,
Yeah.
it's generally, like you rightly mentioned, a benign disease. It's not generally known to lead to that situation.
Yeah.
And does endometriosis in any way affect, especially the pain, affect kidney function?
So it does. We've seen cases like that, but not because the endometriosis is on the kidney. It we find a lot of endometriosis on the side walls of
Mm,
the pelvis, and that's where the
that's
kidney tubes are. So
mm,
sometimes they cause either stricture because the disease is sticking on the ureters, the kidney tubes.
mm.
But we've seen cases where it's actually on the kidney tube itself and it's stopping
Okay.
the kidneys from draining effectively. So sometimes that's how kidneys get damaged, not because of the endometriosis, but secondary to
Okay,
because the kidney
the
tubes were
obstruction,
affected. Yeah,
obstructing the ureters, not allowing
mm,
urine to flow properly,
exactly.
and then
Yeah,
the effects of the backflow, the pressure,
mm,
can over time then cause damage to the kidneys.
yeah.
Oh, 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 that's good to know. So from what I can gather from all that you've been saying, when it comes to especially coping strategy for endometriosis, it's it's multidisciplinary, it's multidimensional.
Yeah.
And we don't only talk about medications, even though medications are very important, but there are other approaches, including belonging to a support group, and the fact that even physiotherapy can be useful.
Mm-hmm.
And you've also mentioned what we call cognitive behavioral therapy. That's talking business,
Mm.
where you meet a specialist, and what he does is to try to help you
Cope.
understand some of the reasons behind your pain,
Mm-hmm.
and if there are negative thought process, they help in trying to break that cycle of negative thought process. Hopefully that becomes helpful with the pain.
Yeah.
And I'm also glad you've mentioned the role of lifestyle changes generally, maintaining a healthy diet and
Mm-hmm.
good nutrition, especially diet low on the FODMAP scale,
Yeah.
has been very beneficial for patients suffering from endometriosis.
Yeah.
And you've also mentioned and that generally endometriosis isn't cancer, even though we do know in a very small number, especially the ovarian type, can lead to some form of ovarian cancer, but the incidence is very rare. That's very good to know. And there was this question: are there any other thing, especially any books, anything you can recommend for us to do to cope with this pain due to endometriosis?
There are a lot of people who have written books about endometriosis and pelvic pain. There's a nutritionist called Henrietta Norton, and basically she had endometriosis and she's a nutritionist and she's had surgeries, she's had hormonal treatments, and something she thinks that something has got to be done because it's not all about surgeries and drugs. So she looked into nutrition and she's found, modifying your diet helps a
Okay.
lot with the
Oh, good.
symptoms. So you can look into that. The NHS have a very good, what you call that, article about endometriosis and the hormonal treatments and other treatment options on the NHS website as well. So they can look it up there.
Good. So there are so many online resources and good books.
Yeah.
And I will say to whoever is here with us that if you want to know more, feel free to get in touch with the foundation, the association. We'll be very happy to give you all the relevant information to help you on your journey as you try to overcome this problem. Yeah. And lots of questions coming, but unfortunately, time is not our friend. So we'll try to wrap up. And my what would be your take generally, Luz, to the association going forward in terms of how to help people, especially on the continent of Africa generally, where obviously resources are limited, and often these limited resources are competing with other demands such as education, shelter, accommodation, for instance. And what will you say to that young girl who may be struggling in pain, but due to cultural reasons, people just wouldn't want to believe what she's going through? What will you say to her?
Well, I would say to her that she has to be firm in, saying, this is my symptom, please, I'm struggling. If she has to keep a diary of her symptoms, just
Mm,
so she can show her doctor that this is my monthly cycle, this is where my pain is at, then that usually helps. Because sometimes, especially when you see the doctor and you're not in that much pain, they
mm,
don't believe you're in that much pain. When you
mm,
say your pain yesterday was 10 and you're up and about today, sometimes they think there's no way you can be in that much pain yesterday. But as endometriosis patients, they have really excruciating pain. They might have moderate pain, at which point, okay, I can do this now, because they can't just sit and not do anything.
mm, mm,
Otherwise, they won't be able to do anything at all. So
mm,
usually they get overtired, because on the days when their symptoms are manageable, that's when they play catch up for
mm,
the days that they're bedridden or
mm,
debilitated.
mm,
And
mm,
it's a case of writing everything down, so you've got an actual evidence of your
mm,
symptoms, and sometimes even logging in pain during your bowel movement. If
mm,
that's a one-off, you can track down, did it happen again during your
mm,
period, or is it definitely one-off? Because sometimes,
mm,
especially with pain, days and nights just merge together, that
mm,
it's difficult to say and convince your doctor that this is actually what's happening. So
mm,
diary is quite important.
mm, mm. Do you have any message for opinion leaders and the uh, people in decision making position to make a difference, especially?
Well, I spoke to the junior doctors some time ago, and I said when they see patients in A&E and they're in so much pain, we can't just tell them it's all in your head. Pain is
Mm,
pain. They wouldn't
mm,
have ended up in A&E knowing how long the waiting time is if their pain is something that they can manage at home.
mm,
Endometriosis patients are very strong women. They would have used everything in their arsenal
mm,
to manage their pain before they end up in A&E.
mm,
And sometimes the ones also who end up in A&E, they might not have had any pain until they've had that really severe jolt of pain that made them wonder what's going on. That's
mm,
why they're in A&E. And I
mm,
tell the junior doctors, please don't send them away if they're in pain. You really have to look for what's causing that pain. And
mm,
if they've looked and they don't think they have pain, refer them to the pelvic pain team in the clinic, and at
mm,
which point I would sort of follow them up after their discharge.
mm. That's good. And from what you've been saying to us, what is coming out clearly is the fact that if you look at it critically, because of the severity of the pain of endometriosis, the burden of this problem is not really only to the people suffering from it.
Mm,
If she's a mother, it's going to affect the family.
it does.
And if she's an employee, it's going to affect her place of work.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
If
And
if she's
obviously,
a wife, it
yes,
affects relationship.
yes, it affects relationship. So it's very important for everybody to feel involved in this condition.
Yeah.
So it's not just her problem. The
No.
whole family should be supportive.
Yeah.
Employers should be supportive and should put in measures in place to support people suffering from this problem. And even government as a whole should set aside resources to help with funding research so that we can understand this disease condition. Because you rightly mentioned that we still have significant gap in knowledge
Yeah.
in terms of understanding what really is the cause and how
Mm-hmm.
can we effectively treat and tackle this problem.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that's very key, and it came out clearly in your talk. Thank you very much for that. And then one other question just came in, and I felt okay, maybe we should mention it before we finally wrap it up. Yes, what will you say to people in authority, for instance, our traditional rulers, especially in Africa, who, or even the men amongst us, who really do not see any problem which is related to women as a major problem affecting society generally as a whole?
Um, I think with equality,
Yeah,
gender equality,
yeah.
women are taking a lot of roles now that has never been imagined they can do.
Mm,
So, you know, we, a lot of women now need to, sometimes they're from single families, they need to be, they are the main breadwinners and all of that. So how can we leave them to be in pain and not do anything about it when
mm,
they're meant to be working? For the employers, they need to know, okay, this is a very good employee. How can I help her manage her symptoms? Maybe they can give allowance for that person to work from home if they are not able to go to work on the day that their pain is uh, difficult. And I've spoken to, and some women who have bowel and bladder problems,
mm,
um, they can work, but they have to be close to a facility, and sometimes that's not doable at work.
mm.
So, if they can work from home, why can we not help them do this as well? And for I don't know what else to suggest in terms of the government. They should be able to maybe
I mean,
audit.
resource allocation, very key. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
but also they can maybe audit how many patients go to A&E and for pelvic pain. And
Mm,
there's a number here that we spend so much, how many billions of pounds on pain relief, and they
mm.
should look into, okay, why is there so many money being used for pain relief, and maybe majority of those for endometriosis symptoms. And I think it's becoming quite acknowledged here now in the UK, although not as much as we still want it to be. But the fact that our sort of group, the BSGE group, has been very active in promoting endometriosis, I think that we are becoming quite known in terms of the condition and how treatment should be. So we're following that standard now in terms of how to treat the disease. And GPs are becoming more trained as well. So I try and speak to GP practices as well to keep them updated, and also practice nurses. Maybe there might be an opportunity for nurses in your country to train them so that they
Yeah,
can
very
be
important.
more, yeah, specialized, so they
Mm,
can be supportive to
mm,
the women. Because if there's not enough doctors to look after these women, then the specialist nurse's role is to be like the mediator between, the doctor and the patient, and to help them manage and cope with their symptoms while they're waiting for treatment or waiting to see a doctor. So
mm.
that could be something to think about.
Yeah, thank you very much.